And thank you, Mayor, for both your leadership in tackling homelessness and your kind words about Hope for the Homeless Foundation. We couldn't agree more. Ending homelessness takes proven action, and that's exactly why we're here tonight. Yeah, and thank you all for being here. Tonight is about hope. It's about real hope, the kind that changes lives and restores futures. When Carol and I launched Hope for the Homeless Foundation in 2019, we knew it would take more than just vision. It would take people willing to roll up their sleeves and give of themselves. We are a 501c3 nonprofit with no paid staff, just 9 board members who give their time, their money, and their heart. And without them, none of this happens. Board members, please stand and let's show them how much we appreciate them. So when we started HHF, it was driven by one conviction: to fund organizations that transform lives by tackling the root causes of homelessness. So the question that begs to be answered is this: how do we do that? I mean, how do we determine which organizations to financially support? It's not an easy question to answer, and here's why. There are over 400 nonprofits in the Portland area that help the homeless. Yes, you heard me right, over 400. But fortunately, there's a relatively easy way to distinguish between all of these organizations. You see, nonprofits can be divided into one of 2 categories. Compassionate care organizations, they provide for the immediate needs of the homeless, for example, food, clothing, medical treatment. Those are just a few examples. These services are indispensable for alleviating short-term suffering and are often the first line of support for those in crisis. In contrast, holistic recovery organizations aim to address the root causes of homelessness. These organizations equip individuals with the tools and skills needed to achieve stability, secure permanent housing, and reintegrate into society. These organizations don't just offer a temporary fix, they empower individuals to reclaim their independence and dignity, whereas compassionate care merely mitigates its symptoms and keeps the homeless in their current situation. That said, there is an appropriate way to use compassionate care by building a genuine relationship with someone living on the street. You start small. You offer a bottle of water. You offer an energy bar or a pair of socks as a simple act of kindness. And over time, as trust develops, you then encourage them to take that first step toward connecting with a holistic recovery organization that can address the root causes of their homelessness. But continually providing compassionate care items without ever guiding someone towards real help becomes a form of enabling. Enabling is meeting immediate needs in a way that unintentionally keeps a person stuck where they are, comforting them in their current situation without helping them move towards stability and long-term recovery. True compassion offers both kindness in the moment and a path forward. As I said, there are more than 400 nonprofits in the Portland area that help the homeless. And of these, we estimate that 90% are compassionate care organizations and only 10% are holistic recovery organizations. Holistic recovery is a solution to homelessness. Compassionate care is not. Since our inception 6 years ago, we have identified 21 holistic recovery programs that we can strongly endorse. If you'd like to know who they are, just check the appropriate box on your response card. Our goal is to identify and financially support every holistic recovery organization in the Portland metro area. But before we go any further, let's talk about how someone becomes homeless. How do people end up on the street? Homelessness begins with the collapse of a person's support system. This quote by Brandy Tuck, executive director of Path Home, is really very insightful. She says, you don't become homeless when you run out of money, which is how we normally think about it. No, you become homeless when you run out of relationships. I have a friend who in the not too distant future will run out of money. He's a couple years away, but it's going to happen. But he has 2 cousins and he has me, and we will make sure he doesn't end up homeless. Those who are homeless don't have that kind of support system. I mean, if they did, they wouldn't be homeless because a family member or friend would come alongside and help them to remain housed. But what are the root causes of homelessness? Well, over the 6 years of HHF's existence, we have vetted over 50 organizations that help the homeless in the Portland metro area. We asked executive directors to list the primary causes of homelessness. Now understand this, and this is important. These answers come from the people on the front lines. They are the ones that are dealing with the homeless crisis on a daily basis. In my opinion, these are the experts in the field. And this is what they say. Mental illness and addiction are the top 2 on everybody's list. I mean, everything else pales in comparison. But that said, I'm going to add one more to the list because it's usually grouped in a variety of different ways. And I want to put it all together, and that's trauma. Trauma takes many forms. Women fleeing domestic violence is one example. Veterans suffering from PTSD is another. But probably childhood trauma is probably the most prevalent. Physical, emotional, or sexual abuse that even years later as children, or as adults, they're still struggling with to overcome. So why is it important to know the top 3 reasons of homelessness? Because most local and state leaders believe homelessness is a direct result of a lack of affordable housing. They believe in the housing first approach to treating homelessness. Well, last week, Carol and I attended a City Club of Portland presentation featuring our esteemed guest, Sharon Myron. Thank you, Sharon. And James Schroeder, who is the CEO of Cascadia Health, and which is one of the largest in the region providing mental health and addiction treatment services. Mr. Schroeder spoke candidly about the Housing First model, which gives homeless people housing without requiring any form of treatment. While that approach may sound compassionate, he made it clear that Housing First without treatment simply doesn't work. Those are his exact words. Providing a roof over someone's head does little good if the underlying causes of their homelessness, addiction, mental illness, and trauma go unaddressed. He ended his remarks with a notable shift in direction. Cascadia Health will no longer follow the Housing First model as it is currently practiced. Instead, they will focus on programs that combine housing with treatment and accountability. Yeah, that's truly an applause line. And it's the only approach proven to help people rebuild stable, independent lives. His remarks put a spotlight on why so many well-intentioned efforts fail. And while the Hope for the Homeless Foundation supports much of Mayor Wilson's homeless plan, tonight was exceptional, we respectfully disagree on one crucial point. Homelessness is not primarily a housing problem. It's a human crisis problem, rooted in addiction, mental illness, and trauma. And when policymakers frame it as a housing issue, their response becomes predictable. Build expensive, affordable housing projects. And if you'd like to know how expensive these affordable housing projects are, check the appropriate box on your response card and we will send it to you. But even when these units are built, they mostly end up housing the working poor rather than those living on the street. And while we should care deeply about the working poor, this approach does very little to help the homeless. If you want to understand why this is so, you guessed it, check the appropriate box on your response card and we'll send our explanation to you. Does Oregon have a housing affordability problem? You bet, no question. But the housing affordability problem is not fueling the homeless crisis. They are two separate crises with two different sets of underlying causes. And if you'd like to know what is causing our housing affordability problem and how to solve this crisis, all together now, check the appropriate box on your response card. Thank you. The holistic recovery approach follows a three-step model. It begins by getting the homeless person off the street and into transitional housing with a structured environment. A case manager then helps individuals identify their underlying causes of homelessness. Counseling and classes are offered to mitigate their specific issues to lead them down the path towards stability. Once stable, they're assisted with securing permanent housing. So let me summarize the two big takeaways from my presentation so far, because in reality, everything else tonight flows from these 2 points. One, we're funding ineffective programs, compassionate care services and expensive affordable housing, neither of which help solve the homeless crisis. And two, as an alternative, we can embrace change by financially supporting holistic recovery organizations and demanding from them measurable outcomes. Holistic recovery programs actually work. They are the long-term solution to solving homelessness, one person at a time. So now that I presented our case for the importance of holistic recovery programs, how do we know which organizations to financially support? And each year, our primary goal at HHF is to identify and thoroughly vet four new organizations for funding through our Champions Fund. We look for organizations with a proven track record of helping people experiencing homelessness achieve stability and secure permanent housing. And our vetting process, well, it's not for the faint of heart. Just talk to some of the executive directors tonight that are here. We don't just read grant applications. We roll up our sleeves. We conduct on-site visits. We analyze program data. We interview leadership and track year-over-year outcomes. We look for programs that help people achieve stability, sobriety, employment, and lasting housing retention. We want answers to four key questions. One, how many people did you attempt to help with the root causes of their homelessness? Seems like a pretty straightforward question, doesn't it? And of these, how many were successfully stabilized and housed? By the way, it takes anywhere from 6 months to 2 years to graduate from a holistic recovery program. So number 3 is, what is your 1-year success rate? Because graduating from a program is one thing, and don't get me wrong, it is an important milestone, no question. But remaining stable and housed a year after graduation, that's the true measure of lasting impact. And number 4, what is the cost to help one person become stabilized and housed? So that's how we vet these organizations. It's rigorous, it's time-consuming, but when people's lives are at stake, good intentions aren't good enough. We fund outcomes. When we write a check, we know it's producing real results, not wishful thinking. We fund hope that lasts. Now let's get to the moment we've all been waiting for. I've been long-winded enough. Tonight isn't just about charts, data, or due diligence, it's about impact. And I have the honor and the pleasure of announcing our 2025 Champions Fund recipients. May we have a drum roll, please? Hey, well done, well done. In alphabetical order, they are Community of Hope, Men's Life Change Program, the Moxie Transitional Housing Program, and the Harbor New Life Program. These are the organizations turning compassion into measurable change, and tonight we celebrate their extraordinary work. But our story doesn't end there. In 2023, we launched the Evergreen Fund to provide sustained annual support for past Champions Fund recipients. Now, here's the difference between the two funds. Simply put, the Champions Fund is a one-time financial grant to our 4 new financial grant recipients. The Evergreen Fund is an annual grant given to past Champions Fund recipients, and as long as they maintain or grow their vetting results, the organization can expect to receive a grant from us each year. Assuming, of course, our donors continue to financially support us. An annual ongoing grant from the Evergreen Fund allows organizations to plan, grow, and reach even more people tomorrow. And that is why we started the Evergreen Fund. And as you can see on this next slide, the momentum is building. So let me explain what you're looking at here. The yellow boxes represent the Champions Fund financial grant awards, and we did 4 every year since 2020. But in 2023, we also awarded 2 Evergreen Fund grants, or a total of 6 financial grants in 2023. In 2024, we had 3 Evergreen Fund grants for a total of 7 financial grants that year. And then in 2025, we added 7 Evergreen Fund grants for a total of 11 in 2025. Yeah, that's worthy of an applause line, I think. So how many Evergreen Fund grants will be awarded in 2026? Good question. Yeah. My dream is to break into double digits by giving out 10 or more Evergreen Fund grants in 2026. But the answer is entirely in your hands. Here's how it works. For every $25,000 given tonight above last year's total, we'll fund another Evergreen Fund grant. How many we award next year depends on your generosity. So let's dream big and make it happen. This year, I have the honor and the pleasure of announcing our 7 Evergreen Fund grant recipients for 2025. Each of these organizations has already been awarded a $25,000 grant. So let's have another drum roll, please. Good job. Good job. In alphabetical order, they are Agape Village, City Team Portland, Kenton's Women Village, My Father's House, Open House Ministries, Road to Hope, and Transitional Youth. Altogether, that's 11 organizations, 4 new Champions Fund recipients, and 7 Evergreen Fund recipients, making a measurable difference in our community. These organizations deserve our recognition for the lives changed, the futures reclaimed, and the hope restored. If you're associated with one of these 11 organizations, would you please stand and be recognized? These organizations, they're my heroes.